What up is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads, where we give you daily Dynasty videos, and of course this one has been recommended by multiple people, so we are going to do the Cornerstone rankings. What is a Cornerstone? Well, think of it as Thanos. Thanos has the gauntlet. It is basically an infinity stone. You get enough of them, and you get to destroy your opponents. Like that. Alright, so who are the Infinity Stones? Who are these Cornerstones? We're going to be doing some of the wide receivers first. We're going to go through the big four. I call them the big four. I think they're, the age-wise, you look at them, what they are at their kind of historic levels. The first one we're going to go with, and I don't have my skull in the background, but it is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson had 1,400 yards last year. And of course, we're going to have an extra game played. You could easily see him repeat that season, being a top 5 dynasty receiver for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Why not? And so that is what you're looking for a cornerstone wide receiver. Basically, players that are nearly almost untradeable. Justin Jefferson is 22 years old. He's my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty overall, behind Adams, behind Tyreek Hill, but it is not by much. I just think that those two have maybe a little bit higher upside, but Justin Jefferson has a really good floor. His upside, he just might not have the crazy 20 touchdowns or 18, 19 touchdowns like Devontae Adams does. So you might have just a little bit less touchdown upside. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, you look at Tyreek Hill, he's been a #1 fantasy wide receiver multiple times. I don't know if Justin Jefferson can get that, but he can be in this kind of like wide receiver 3 to wide receiver like 8, 9 range. And I could see him be there for the next 4 or 5 years, which is amazing in Dynasty fantasy football. In fact, a lot of these wide receivers are kind of into that realm. The next one is going to be A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, 23 years old, 1 year older. And we look at what he did with time missed last year. I mean, he was a wide receiver 1, even with his time missed. He is 23 years old, and I think Ryan Tannehill, of course, being there, and now we have Julio Jones, who's only going to help that situation, I think. And you have just another person to kind of take away coverage, even if he takes a couple more targets. A.J. Brown was on a pace of being a top 5 wide receiver when he was a points per game basis. We were looking at A.J. Brown as being, my bold take is A.J. Brown was going to be a chance of being a wide receiver #1 overall next year. I think that might be a bold pick, but even if he finishes number 3, number 4, number 5, I think we're super close into that area of, wow, this could be, I mean, he could be the next like kind of big Tyreek Hill type kind of category. Yeah, I think A.J. Brown has a higher upside is what I'm saying. You look at the man, and against compared to DK Metcalf, he doesn't look like something amazing. But when you look at the guy against some of his opponents, and he just can just yards after contact, yards after catch. I mean, he's a monster when it comes to it. So when I talked about A.J. Brown, I got to talk about DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, again, a physical specimen, somebody that there's not many physical specimens when we look at somebody and go, wow, they have a trait that is so elite that just makes them completely different than other type of players. So Tyreek Hill, it's his speed. Randy Moss, it was almost everything of Randy Moss. And DK Metcalf is like the monster, the strong version, not as fast as Randy Moss, but when we talk about somebody who runs 4.3 speed at his size, DK Metcalf's size and basically his stature and stuff, we are talking about somebody who 23 years old, has Russell Wilson. I would assume he's going to have Russell Wilson the next couple of years. But DK Metcalf, if he can put a full season together, his problem is he's only put half seasons together, and usually it's like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and then all of a sudden falls off. And that's kind of Russell Wilson's fault. But I think as Tyler Lockett starts to get a little bit older here, they're going to utilize DK Metcalf as the #1 wide receiver. So I think that's going to be a huge point. And the last person I'm going to talk about is CeeDee Lamb. He's 22 years old. He was my favorite wide receiver coming out of the 2020 class. More than Justin Jefferson, more than, he'd be even, if it was him and Jamar Chase, I would have him over Jamar Chase. And these are tier 1, I would say, cornerstones or infinity gems. If you want me to talk about Jamar Chase, I think he could be a cornerstone, but he's kind of in my second tier. I'm not. There's a little bit more risk to it. In my tier 1 right now, we got CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 7. So wide receiver 7, Jefferson 3, A.J. Brown 4, DK Metcalf 5, CeeDee Lamb 7. The other wide receivers in this tier are in their prime or they're getting a little bit older. So when we look at CeeDee Lamb, again, 22, if you look at his ability is what puts him apart. He was amazing at Oklahoma, and I think that is why he stands here, his talent. I mean, we look at Justin Jefferson, how talented he is. I think CeeDee Lamb could even be more talented. But the situation with CeeDee Lamb is going to be interesting with Mari Cooper. Do they buy him out? Do they not buy him out? Does Gallup stay? Does he not stay? Does Dak, is he fully back healthy? There's so many different question marks that I think that's why CeeDee Lamb is just a couple spots lower, but I could be wrong with this. And I think CeeDee Lamb, I've seen him as low as like 12, 13, like into the Terry McLaurin range. And no. CeeDee Lamb, I think 7 is almost putting him too low. But I mean, you see some of the players ahead of him. We got Diggs and Metcalf and Brown and Jefferson. It's kind of hard to put him ahead of those players since they've all produced so well. And like Stephon Diggs, like how do you put him ahead of Stephon Diggs with his last year? It's like, man, these are all big questions. I mean, there's a lot of really good wide receivers. We're going to be doing some cornerstone running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends as well. And we'll have a couple rookies in some of those cornerstones. So again, this is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. And make sure you subscribe. We're going to be closer to 900. Woo! And then 1,000. We'll be giving away that Jerry Jeudy jersey. All right. Peace out. Take care. Now turn up.